us in a few places. The Gemara makes a promise. Kol hashon halachas b'chol yom. Anybody who learns halacha, Jewish law, every day, he's promised that he's going to go to the world to come. Move to Achlo Shehu Ben Olam Haba. Rav Moshe Feinstein asked the following question. It's an interesting question. More of a Jewish. What do you mean? How can you be promised that you're going to go to the world to come? Maybe we should be concerned that a person that learns, the more you learn, the more you realize a lot of the things that we take for granted that are from the Torah, they're not really from the Torah. They're really rabbinic. Muksa. It's rabbinic, according to 99% of the Rishonim, right? A lot of the things that we consider to be very, very chomer are rabbinic. So maybe we should be afraid that the more you learn, the more you'll realize that a lot of things are not as strict as you think they are. And also, the more you learn, the more you realize the reason behind mitzvahs and halachas, and then you're going to become to be negligent in these laws. As the Gemara tells us in Sanhedrin, that Shlomo Melech, the wisest of all men, okay, that he also was not able to overcome, and he sinned because he thought he knew the reason behind mitzvahs. So the Gemara tells us that God gave the reason behind certain mitzvahs, and he saw it didn't work, so no more. How that fits in chronologically, that's for another time. But Gemara Sanhedrin, so you see, the Gemara seems to be a contradiction, because you see over here that there is an idea that we try to be memayit, we try to lessen the knowledge that you have of Torah, so you don't use it against keeping the Torah, keeping the mitzvahs. So therefore, by mitzvah d'Rabbanan, a person's going to say, I know the reason. It's not really going to apply to me. I'm not going to make a raft. So I can swim on Shabbos and Yom Tov. What are you talking about? So, and then a person's going to be a person that doesn't follow the Torah. So what's going on? So how can the Gemara promise you that you're going to go to Olam Haba by studying a lot of Torah? Maybe why aren't we afraid that the more you learn that you might use that to be lenient in your mitzvah observance? He also asks the Mishnah on Pirkei Avos, Lo Amar it's chassid. A person that's ignorant cannot be a chassid, cannot go a payas. No, a chassid over here means a person that's very devout, okay, and follows all the halachas. That group, they call themselves chassidim because they want to live up to those ideals of being devout and being very holy. Most of them are. So same thing. Why aren't we afraid that the more you're learning, the more that you learn, and the more you realize that things aren't as strict as you think they are, that you might use that to be makel, to be lenient in following halachas. The next question we're going to ask, enough questions for now, is the famous kasha. It's not Ramesh's kasha. His kasha is very old. And that is, what was the big deal about the Nes of Chanukah? Oh, that, we had enough oil to last for 8 nights. It wasn't necessary. There's a rule, Tuma Hutra B'tzibur. The laws of impurity go out the window when it comes to a public performance of a mitzvah. Lighting the menorah in the Beis HaMikdash was a public mitzvah. So therefore, the laws of Tumah Tahara don't apply. So they were allowed to, and they would get the actual mitzvah performance properly, even if they used tameh oil that was impure. Could have been used pig oil. Didn't make a difference because of the rule of Tumah Huj B'tzibur. Why do we need, the Nes of Chanukah wasn't necessary. There are thousands of answers to this kasha. And Moshe Feinstein says a very interesting idea. He's going to say this idea. Where's he going with this? It's all going to tie in. Just give me a few minutes. Says Moshe, based on, you're going to think the Chavetz Chaim is talking, but it's based on the pasuk in Mishlei, Maves v'chaim b'yad halashon. Okay? Life and death are dependent on the tongue. It makes an interesting observation. A person could be a very big rasha, could be a very, very wicked person. But if he doesn't talk about his isurim with other people, and he's not mashpia on them, and he doesn't influence them to do bad things, so he's not responsible. He's not causing a kilkul. He's not causing destruction in other people's behavior. Adarabah, on the contrary, maybe they'll look down on him. Look at this guy. He's such a baltaiva. He's such a person that follows after his lust. He can't control himself. And then, so they're not influenced by his averas. But when he uses his tongue, his mouth, and he influences other people, and he convinces them to do bad, and join me in my activities. No, it's really a mitzvah what I'm doing. It's not an avera. It's okay. It's mutter. It's fine. Then he's really responsible for the things that they do because they follow his advice. Says Ramesha, the opposite applies to a tzaddik, for a very righteous person. A person can do great things, but if he doesn't use his greatness and he doesn't influence other people and convince other people to be like him, and he doesn't use the strength of his mouth to get people to follow his way of Torah and mitzvahs, they're not going to follow him. So when a person thinks about it, he realizes how important it is. A person has to be very careful with his tongue. Another idea, it says in the pasuk, "Ein yisra in the balaloshin." There really is no real physical pleasure that a person gets by speaking evil about people or by saying bad things. That's really the difference between us and animals, that we have the ability to speak, but we use it for proper things. That's not why Hashem created us with the ability to speak, to do a surim. It was to daven, to pray, and to study Torah, and do mitzvahs. But if a person washes himself and he doesn't say wrong things, then he can come to fulfilling all the mitzvahs. And to shalom, and to peace and ava and love between mankind. As the pasuk says, Mi shechavetz chaim, who is the man who loves life? L'tzol l'shalcha meiros, v'sechem adam emirma. Guard your tongue. Shomer pivel l'shono, shomer mitzaros nafshe. A person that watches his tongue, his mouth, he watches himself from bad things. Yeah. Therefore, says Ramesha, and then we'll tie this into Chanukah. That's why Hashem made a big deal about Nadarim. Okay, there's a whole pasha of Nadarim. It's all Masechta on Nadarim, on vows. Because, says Ramesha, the main reason that a person has a hard time keeping mitzvahs is because he thinks that it's not a big deal. It's just words. What's the big deal? Only words. That's the limud. That's what we learn out from the pasuk of Nadarim. That a dibur is a davar gadol. That a person's mouth, a person's words is a very important thing, and you can't make his words something chulin, something unimportant, and a person has to watch his mouth and his tongue, because it all comes from the lack of chashivas, the lack of importance that a person uses his words for. And that's the key to all the Torah, is influencing yourself and influencing others, only for good and not for bad. That's also why we say Kol Nidre, the introduction to Yom Kippur, the holiest night of the year. According to Mr. Zaydel from the Zohar, Shabbos is the holiest day of the year. But we'll put that aside. Yom Kippur, what?
It is.
According to Mr. Zaydel from the Zohar, every Friday night, the Shabbos is the holiest day of the year.
It is.
But most people, what?
It is.
Okay. Most people call Yom Kippur Yom HaKodesh. That's why they don't call it Yom Kippur. They call it Yom HaKodesh. Okay? The most wonderful time of the year. No, that's a different holiday. Yom Kippur, tough crowd again today. Well, maybe it just wasn't funny. Two options.
Probably not funny.
What?
Probably not funny.
Probably not funny.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So Yom Kippur, Yom HaKodesh. So what do? We talk about vows. That's the introduction to Yom Kippur called Nidre. Why is that so important? So for another time, the Shiva Rabbi Zweig has a very nice mahalach on this, but that would be for another time. But says Ramesha that a person should understand and realize that a person's talk is a davar gadol. It's a very important thing. And if a person does tshuva and he regrets, and and he intones on this holy day, he should know. A person knows and he really sees how hard it is to watch his mouth, even though he has no benefit from it. And with that, we are different than the behemoth, the koyach hadibur. So that's the idea that we're stressing, is nidre, nedarim, vows, all based on the dibur that a person uses. It's not just words. No, dibur is very, very important. And that's why we talk about vows and as an introduction to Yom Kippur, that a person should realize that lots of the sins, the sins that we're atoning on Yom Kippur, come from dibur. Now, that is by a person. The person sometimes he can't, a person can't come to a person shouldn't come to be lenient with himself. Even though he thinks he's doing a mitzvah, but the person should realize sometimes what you think is a mitzvah is really an avera. But when it comes to the community, which is based on the Beis Din, okay, the rabbis, the rabbinical court, they are the representatives of the tzibur, and they pass on the halacha, they rule a certain way. They have the koyach to be lenient in something when they feel that there's a need to do so. Okay? So now, that's the idea of tuma hutra b'tzibur, that a person, that when it comes to the communal need, we can be makel, we can be lenient on the mitzvah, the abundance of only using proper oil, since it's for the communal need. It's very important. So the rabbis can be lenient and allow them to use the tamei oil, the impure oil. Since they made the rule, they can make the exception to the rule. Okay? When it comes to the Torah rules, you can't make exceptions. Who are you going to make exceptions? You didn't make the rule. It was made by Hashem. But the Rabbanon, since they made the rule, they can feel the need to have an allowance, because after all, it was a rule that they made in the first place. If they feel that there's a need to override this prohibition because of its greater good for the need of the community, then they're allowed to do that. But a person himself, he cannot do that and feel, I'm an exception, I'm different. No. There's no heter to do that. Even Shlomo HaMelech was punished for doing that, because you have no right to do that on an individual level. The tzibur can't do that. The public can do that based on the haskama of the Beis Din, based on the approbation from the rabbinical court. So now, says Rav Moshe, we're finishing up over here. Therefore, in the tzibur, sometimes they allow things that they don't, because there's no other way. So now, what's the heter? Why aren't we afraid that people will come to be lax and be lenient in mitzvah performance? Says Rav Moshe, no. The reason why we're not afraid about that is because people know that it was only for the purpose of the community that we allowed that. But, as they say, well, don't try this at home. These are professional actors who know what they're doing, and therefore, but please don't try this at home. That's the idea. This didn't originate in TV. This originated in the Torah. The Chachamim were not afraid that people would use this in their own homes, because they knew that this is not a bona fide. It was only a bona fide heter for the rabbis in the public setting, but in a private setting, tumah is not a hutra. The laws of impurity don't go away. Now, that is only when it's regular, when it's not during a time of destruction. But when it's a time of shmat, when the non-Jews are trying to kill us, then you cannot be lenient at all in these things. Adarab, on the contrary, a person has to be very, very careful and be very, very machmer. Because you see what's happening. The laws are being tossed. People came over to this country, they threw the tefillin in the water. They said, we're not going to need this anymore. Okay? So during the time of Shemad, when the people are trying to destroy us, says Rav Moshe, that even in the tzibur, we can't be lenient. We can't say, tzibur is allowed. No. Says Ramosha, a very interesting idea. In the Tzibur, once halachas are being tossed upon and being disregarded, so therefore we have to stand up and we have to strengthen our mitzvah performance. So that is what was happening during the time of Chanukah. We were being chased after, we were being persecuted. So therefore, that's the answer to the question. The laws of impurity don't apply in a public gathering. So that's my answering the question now. Because during the time of Shemad, we do say that you have to be machmir, and therefore we needed the nace to find proper oil, because the Chachamim would not allow us to use the improper oil during the time of persecution. We wanted to show that we're not being influenced by the non-Jews who are trying to kill us and trying to let us not do the Torah and follow the mitzvahs. No! So therefore we needed the nace. Therefore, therefore, during that time, the rabbis would not be lenient, and on the contrary, they would be strict. That's why Hashem made the nace that we were able to light with pure oil, to show us that even a small amount of oil can light up a big amount, and that's the general concept. A little bit of light can push aside and override lots of darkness. Just like Matasho and his sons, there were only 12 of them, but they were able, because they were Yerei Hashem, they feared God, and they were tzaddikim, and the righteous people, they were Torah scholars. They were victorious over the Greeks, and we were able to be matayar, to purify Am Yisrael, Jewish people, and the land of Israel. So now, we're going to finish up everything over here. And that's what the Tanur de Eliyahu, that's what Eliyahu Novi told us. That a person that shon halachas, a person that learns halachas, muftach lo shehu b'olam haba, he's promised that he's going to go to the world to come. Says the Ramosha Feinstein, look at the Gemara clearly. It doesn't say halom made halachas, somebody who learned halachas. It's hashayna halachas. Shayna also comes from the word sheni. You don't just do it once, you do it twice. Meaning you do it again, again. Mishinantam levanacha. That has to be sharp. It has to be, it's not just learning one time. A person doesn't just rely on his first learning. A person wants to be successful in his limud Torah, he has to learn it again and review it, and then he's going to go to Olam Haba. And that's the idea of tying into everything over here, because you're using your mouth for good things. By constantly learning and reviewing, you're also strengthening your idea that words mean something. Words mean something, and therefore use your words only for good things, and don't use the words for bad things. So now, to tie it all together, also says Ramosha, Kiva sheshon halachas b'chol yom lo yovel daver b'divrei hevel. Sometimes a person sins. You know why? Because they're bored. Because they have nothing to do. Says Ramosha, I'll give you an answer. If you learn Torah, you're not going to be bored. You're not going to come to using your mouth for bad things. Because your mouth's busy. Your mouth's busy learning and davening. You're not going to have a chance to do bad things. So, the lesson from Chanukah is that even though the generation was so bad, but the next Chanukah happened, that the 12 sons, Matasho and his sons, there were only 12 people, but they were able to be mechazak, they were able to strengthen themselves and to be victorious over the Greeks. Because just a little bit of light can overcome a lot of darkness. So that's the lesson that we learn from Chanukah, that increasing of limud Torah, using the mouth only for good for learning, for davening, chas v'shalom, not to use their mouth for any bad things, and also the idea of the nace, that Hashem gave us a nace because He's teaching us and showing us that don't look for heterim during the time of persecution. All heterim go out the window. We have to, on the contrary, use the time of Chanukah to be mechazek our limud Torah. Just one more thing, and that's going to answer the question that I asked you in the beginning, or Moshe asked in the beginning, just to make sure that I answered all the questions. Why I won't be afraid that by learning, you're going to use the learning to come to be makel, because you're going to realize that the things aren't as strict as you thought they were before you started learning. The answer is, that's only if you learn once. It doesn't say halom bin halachas. It says hashayna halachas. Hashayna halachas means that you constantly learn. You're learning, you learn again, and you review, and you learn again. If you do that, then you realize the chashivas of learning and mitzvahs, and then you're not going to use the learning to come to be makel, to be lenient in your mitzvah performance. But other Abba, you're going to use the intensity of the learning to increase in your mitzvah performance.